BLUF Gaming here with a simple bypass rail design that enables you to let trains traveling in two different directions share a track without any risk of crashing into each other. As you can see, any trains traveling from left to right will use this bottom rail, and then trains traveling from right to left are going to bypass that bottom portion, enabling trains to pass by. As you can see, I have two regular rail signals in the entrance from each direction, and then I have two chain signals at the exit. The second regular rail signal on each end is optional, but I like to think of these rail signals in pairs just because it makes things easier for me, and when I'm making new designs, I have far fewer mistakes when I use them in pairs like this. You have to be careful that whenever you use a structure like this, that after the final chain signal, there are no more rail signals until you get to another structure like this, or a depot, or your factory, or some place that can handle multiple trains going different directions. If you have a signal between this and the next such structure, you may find yourself with two trains facing off in the middle of a single rail. One thing to keep in mind when using these is that if you have multiple trains going in one direction, that direction's bypass may need an extra light, here for instance, so that you can have two trains queued up in the same bypass while others pass by the other direction. That's your bottom line up front. If you'd like to see us build this from the ground up and talk in detail about how all of this works, just stick around for the rest of the video. Alright, it's time to build this from the ground up. We already have a rail going across here, and presumably we have trains that travel along it in both directions, and we don't want them to crash. So what we need to do is make a temporary offshoot that leaves the main rail and then joins it again. Like so. What we want to happen is we want trains going one direction to take the straight rail, and we want trains going the other direction to take this rail. We also want them to stop in their respective sections whenever an opposing train is coming through. So first things first, let's let them know what direction they can travel. For trains traveling from left to right, we're going to let them use the straightaway. Now I'm going to start with regular signals, but we're going to change some in a bit. So what we have here is a signal to indicate if it's clear to enter this structure. And this one might seem like a duplication of efforts, but what it's doing is it's telling the train that we want you to go in the right lane. We don't want you to come up here. This is your straightaway. And then here, this is the place where we want the train to stop while it waits for other trains to pass along this way. And this one will indicate to us if it's safe for it to go out. Now going the opposite direction, we're going to do the same thing. The train's coming from right to left. This light lets them know if it's safe to enter the structure. This light lets them know which side of the structure to enter. This light lets them know where to stop before they leave the structure. And this one gives them an indication if it's clear for them to travel along. Now, this will not work as is. We need some chain signals. So first, let's handle left to right again. These first two are okay. This one lets us know, is it okay to enter? This one lets us know, enter this side. Now this next one needs to be a chain signal. What a chain signal does is it mimics whatever signal the light in front of it is giving. The next one also needs to be a chain signal. So why are we doing it like this? Presumably, further along this railway, there's going to be another structure like this. And if not specifically like this, it could be a depot or something, but further along this railroad, there's going to be another rail signal. If we assume that the next structure has a similar setup to this one, this is going to read what the next rail signal will be. There could be a chain signal up there, but we'll assume it's a rail signal. And if it's another structure like this, it would be saying, hey, that structure is safe for you to enter right now, because if this was green, that means this is green in the similar structure further down the road. If it's red, it's saying, hey, it's not safe to enter the next structure, so you need to hold back. You don't need to enter this rail yet until that structure is ready for you. So if this was the only light we had on this end, your train would come up and it would wait right here at this light. The problem with that is that the train would be blocking any trains coming this direction from going over here. So what we're going to do is have another chain signal right here that reads this one, that's telling the train stop here while we're waiting for this one to tell us the next structure is ready. And again, on the entrance, we have two regular signals. One that just tells us, hey, the coast is clear, and another that tells us this is the side you go on. Coming the opposite direction is exactly the same, just on the other rail. This says, hey, it's safe to come in the structure. This one says, use this rail. And now these two need to be chain signals for the same reason as the two on the other end do. This one is telling us the next structure is ready for you, and this one is saying exactly what that says. If this says that it's not ready, this one's telling it, hey, this is where you stop and wait for it to be ready. So, what are the limitations of this? Well, one limitation is that if you have only one train traveling left to right on the entire system and only one train traveling right to left, this will work just fine. But if you have more than that traveling in one direction or the other, you need to make sure that these bypasses have enough room to hold multiple trains traveling in that direction. Otherwise, you could end up with a deadlock. A way you can do that, aside from just making sure that it's long enough, is to add extra lights where you want trains to wait. So this current setup would have room for a 2-car train right here and another here. If you had 3 trains traveling in one direction and 1 traveling in the other, well, for the direction that has 3 trains, you'd need to make sure there's enough room to buffer all 3. It would be unlikely with that setup to have a deadlock, but it's possible. And when it's possible, well, it for some reason will find a way to happen, even if it's unlikely. So, let's see this in action and see if it actually works the way it's advertised. Okay, I have 3 trains using this system now, 2 going from left to right or counterclockwise and 1 going right to left or clockwise. We just saw 2 go by from left to right. We should have another one going from right to left before too long. Looks like he's waiting, and there we go. So what I've done is I've made a small circle with 3 of these of multiple different styles. The one I showed you is a simple straightaway, but you can also make it on turns. And this could depend on what you have in the area. If this were in your factory, you might have buildings here. So you might want to have a bypass lane going around the outside. Or another way to do it on a curve is to have a bypass lane going along the inside. Another thing to note is that I was using 4 lights. I was using 4 signals in each direction. You can get away with just 3. As you see here, trains coming this direction will have a green light letting them know whether or not it's safe to come in. And then before I was saying you needed another light to let it know what side of the lane to use. Well, that can actually be your chain signal further along. I prefer the 4 light method, but a 3 light method is perfectly fine. And as you see, I have 4 going this way, 3 going that way, and that does work. Optimally, with this type of situation, you would have 2 separate tracks and only combine them whenever you have a depot that needs to be shared or some other important place where you need them to all come together. This has been Bottom Line Up Front. If you have any questions or comments, I look forward to reading them. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be sure to get all of our videos as soon as they come up. That's all for now, engineers. I'll be coming back later this weekend with more train videos, and please let me know if you have any special requests. Till next time.